Holy Angel University, in cooperation with the Center for Kapampangan Studies, brings you Alaya. Feisty, courageous, the gallant warriors of Pampanga. But amongst these Kapampangan warriors, one man stood tall and mightiest against the invaders. Tarik Soliman, the first Filipino, the first Kapampangan who believed that a country's freedom is worth defending and dying for. Mentioned in early Spanish chronicles as the brave youth from Macabebe was the Kapampangan Datu who hailed from the southern part of Pampanga near Manila Bay. Like most Datus during the time before the Spaniards came, Tarik Soliman held executive, judicial, and military powers over his people. The nation he ruled over was a civilized one. Every man, woman, and child could read and write. They had a fully functioning government system, a structured society in which laws were created and implemented and taxes passed. And there was a religious calendar in which various festivals were celebrated with passion and creativity. Life was prosperous and orderly in the Kapampangan nation. Even agricultural activities were calendared for the datus like Tarik Soliman, who would also determine the planting and harvesting dates. Because harvest was abundant, Pampanga would always produce a surplus of food. Thus, they were able to trade with other Southeast Asian nations. But one quiet day in 1571, the first Spanish Armada sailed from the Visayas and landed in the island of Luzon. The Tagalog tribal chieftains in Manila, led by Raha Matanda and Raha Soliman, as well as the King of Tondo, Lacandula, welcomed these European visitors with open arms. Led by Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, these conquistadores assured the natives that they came here with only one objective: to teach the true law of the one, the all-powerful God, to convert them into becoming Christians and nothing more. But the longer they stayed, the more their true motives unraveled. While the priests preached, Legazpi and his men were ordering natives to build hundreds of houses for soldiers, a huge house for himself, and a chapel for the friar. When the Kapampangan saw this, they berated their Tagalog brothers for accommodating these white men and for being blind to their true motive: invasion. Tarik Soliman tried to convince Lacandula to rise in arms, but Lacandula feared the consequences of a revolt. Legazpi sent 2 Spaniards to assure Tarik Soliman of his peaceful intentions and to fetch and escort him to his ship. Tarik Soliman immediately suspected it was a ploy, and so he stood up, unsheathed his sword, and cried out, "May the sun split my body in twain, and may all women abhor me before I allow myself to be enslaved by the Spaniards." And with great swagger and bravado typical of Kapampangans, Tarik turned his back on the Spanish emissaries, and instead of using the door, he leaped out and jumped through the window. Amid cheers, he went straight to his boat and told the Spaniards to tell Miguel Lopez de Legazpi that he would wait for him in the channel of Bangkusay. When he heard this, Legazpi sent instead his chief of staff, Martin de Goiti, and 9 boats carrying 80 Spaniards to Bangkusay. On May 24, 1571, the Battle of Bangkusay began. On one side, the Kapampangans had only scabbards and daggers and a few lantaka, the ancient cannons made by Panday Pira of Apalit, Pampanga. On the other side, the Spaniards had the best artillery from Europe. From the start, the Kapampangans did not have a fighting chance. Yet they fought fiercely and valiantly, and with such savagery that surprised the Spaniards. But with one single bullet fired from the superior weapons of the Spaniards, Tariq Soliman fell and died. His death and that of over 300 Kapampangan warriors so demoralized the remaining men that they abandoned their boats, dove into the sea, and fled in all directions. This event broke up the ancient alliance between the river people, the Taga-Ilogs or Tagalogs, and the riverbanks people, the Kapampangans, and subsequently led the Spaniards to a wave of invasion in the interior of the Luzon Island, sailing through the Pampanga River. Thus, on December 11, 1571, La Pampanga, Spain's first province in Luzon, was formally organized out of the many scattered nations along the river. Tariq Soliman and hundreds of Kapampangan freedom fighters died in the historic Battle of Pangkusay. Since then, Kapampangans have proven time and again their bravery and military skills, helping the Spaniards resist other invaders, conquer new lands, and defeat revolts and rebellions. When the revolution against Spain broke out, Pampanga was among the first provinces to fight for independence. It was the brave youth from Macabebe, Tariq Soliman, who showed the country and the world that Kapampangans are a proud ethnic race ready to defend at all times and with all means their race and culture. Thus, Tariq Soliman is recognized as the one who started the enduring and sometimes controversial reputation of Kapampangans as brave warriors who will confront their enemy even when all seems lost. Tariq Soliman, brave youth from Macabebe, valiant warrior of Pampanga, the first Kapampangan hero and martyr.